Zanclean flood. About 5 million years ago, the Mediterranean Sea was completely gone. Not frozen, not low, gone. It had dried up into a giant salt desert. Imagine the Sahara, but lower, saltier, and filled with the bones of everything that used to live there. Scientists call this the Messinian salinity crisis. Meanwhile, the Atlantic Ocean was sitting on the other side of what is now Spain, pushing against a thin strip of land. That strip acted as a dam, and like all dams, it eventually gave up. When it broke, the Atlantic did not just trickle in. The amount of water violently rushing through was a 1,000 times greater than the Amazon River, every single second. Imagine every river on Earth combined, multiplied by a 100. That's what was pouring into this empty desert basin. Scientists think the entire Mediterranean refilled in somewhere between a few months and a couple of thousand years. The water moved so fast it carved channels hundreds of feet deep into solid rock, which we can still see buried under the seafloor today. If you were standing on the edge of that basin when the dam broke, you would not have watched a flood rush toward you. You would have watched the horizon itself slowly rise. The Mediterranean went from a dead baking salt flat to a full ocean, and there was absolutely nothing slow about it. Number 9. The day the sky burned. 66 million years ago, a city-sized rock slammed into Earth. But what happened next was somehow worse. The asteroid hit with such force it vaporized instantly. Billions of tons of molten rock were blasted straight up into actual space. Then, gravity pulled it back down. As this molten rock re-entered the atmosphere at insane speeds, it cooled into trillions of razor-sharp glass beads called spherules, raining down across the entire planet at once. Imagine you're a dinosaur in Texas, too far away to feel the impact. You're having a normal Tuesday, then the sky starts glowing like an oven. The friction of those falling glass beads generated so much heat that the air reached temperatures hotter than a kitchen broiler. This thermal pulse lasted 20 minutes. 20 minutes of being slowly roasted alive from above. No cave could save you. The heat radiated from the sky in every direction. The glass rain didn't just burn animals, it ignited forests globally, simultaneously. Geologists found a thin layer of soot in rocks from this period worldwide, the ash of an entire planet burning in a single afternoon. Scientists call it the KPG boundary. Above this thin, dark line, no dinosaurs. Below it, dinosaurs everywhere. Number 8. The planet that froze solid. Imagine someone cranked Earth's thermostat down to minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit, everywhere, all at once. During snowball Earth 700 million years ago, even the equator looked like Antarctica. This wasn't just a bad winter, it lasted up to 50 million years. The ocean ice was over a mile thick in some places. If you teleported there, the air would kill you instantly. At minus 60, your lungs would freeze before your first breath. Life almost didn't make it. Tiny microbes clung to survival near volcanic vents deep underwater, where heat from Earth's core kept small pockets of liquid water alive. All life on Earth was hiding in a few tiny, warm bathtubs at the bottom of a frozen ocean. Ironically, volcanoes are also what saved us. For millions of years they erupted under the ice, pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Because the oceans were sealed, the CO2 had nowhere to go. It just kept building up. Think of it like leaving your car running in a closed garage. Eventually, the greenhouse effect kicked in so hard that the entire planet thawed out in a geologically short window. Earth went from a frozen wasteland to a sweltering hothouse. No in between. Just frozen hell, straight into tropical hell. Number 7. The planet of giant mushrooms. Before trees existed, something else covered the land. Mushrooms, but not the kind you put on a pizza. We're talking about mushrooms that grew up to 26 feet tall, taller than a 2-story building. These towering fungi were called prototaxites, and for about 130 million years, they were the tallest living things on the planet. Imagine walking through this world. In every direction, massive, pale, fleshy towers loom over you. No leaves, no branches, just giant mushroom stalks as far as the eye can see. It looked less like Earth and more like a sci-fi fever dream. Scientists argued for years about what prototaxites even were, because absolutely nothing like them exists today. When they finally confirmed it was a giant fungus, the scientific community was stunned. The air back then wasn't clean. These mushrooms were constantly releasing thick clouds of spores that drifted through the atmosphere. The soil itself was basically one giant mat of fungal threads called mycelium, connecting the whole surface through a massive underground network. The only animals living in this bizarre world were giant insects, weird armored fish, and the very first creatures starting to crawl onto land. For 130 million years, this was home, a planet covered in 2-story mushrooms and choking spore clouds. Number 6. The age of giant bugs. Imagine the cockroach in your kitchen is the size of a golden retriever. Welcome to Earth, 300 million years ago. Back then, the air was roughly 35% oxygen, compared to today's 21%. For bugs, this was a biological cheat code. Insects don't have lungs. Oxygen just soaks into their bodies through tiny tubes. More oxygen in the air means bigger bodies. So, the bugs kept growing. Millipedes called Arthropleura reached 8 feet long. That's the size of a small car, crawling through the swamp swamps on hundreds of legs. Then there were the dragonflies. Meganura had a wingspan of 2.5 feet, the size of a modern hawk, and these were fast, aggressive predators. Imagine sitting outside, and a dragonfly the size of a carry-on suitcase decides you look interesting. The whole planet was a giant terrarium of dense, warm, humid swamp forests, like Florida, but the bugs actually won. Eventually, global oxygen levels dropped, and the bugs shrank, but those massive swamp forests got buried underground, slowly turning into coal and oil. Every time you fill up your gas tank, you're burning the remains of the world those giant bugs called home. Number 10.